This is our broad topic. Did I get the? Oh, look at that. That's all sorts of wrong.
Yes.
I'm working on Keynote. I'll get better at it. So pay to play schemes. Steven, you're a photographer. You ever encounter any of these pay to play schemes?
So to me, the phrase "pay to play" is so inexplicably linked to politics that I'm not sure how it applies to any other context.
Really?
Yeah, like because all I think about when I hear "pay to play" is
It's
politics.
just quid pro quo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially since that's an accusation that's been thrown around a lot this election, and I'm so deep in election coverage, I'm not sure how it applies to.
What I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about that. I think everybody understands how pay to play works in politics. It's wrong. It's usually if it's not already outlawed, it ought to be. Right.
Pay to play
Yeah.
in general, whether it's politics or not, is just wrong.
It's just wrong. But let's talk about So I wanted to talk about a couple of the examples I've come across in my days as a musician, and then I think from there you'll understand what I'm talking about. And Ty, if you've got any examples, please.
I'll chime in if I got it.
Yeah. So the first one, the most common pay to play scheme you'll see as a musician, the thing to avoid is these places that say, okay, we're going to put you on the bill with like 6 other bands, and we're going to give you a packet of tickets, but the packet of tickets are going to cost $5. So you have to give us $5 to get the tickets. Now, when you go sell these tickets, we're going to keep the first 15 ticket sales, and then we'll pay you a portion after that. It just turns into you're going to pay us to get on stage.
Mm-hmm.
If a band is paying a venue to get on stage, it is pay to play. So I actually brought an artifact. I've done it once.
Oh, you found the tickets?
I had them. I don't know where they went. Little orange guys. Well, anyway, there's
Yeah, I don't know where they are either.
I did one of these, and I was so furious because he didn't. If he would have told me that he was going to keep the first 15 tickets, I would have turned the gig down. That's a terrible deal. Oh, we're going to split the money after you keep the first 15? And then, by the way, they're going to put 6 bands on stage, and if everybody sells 15, the place is at capacity. So it's a big ol' scam. There's a couple of companies that do it that I want to call out individually. The first is Bridging the Music. The big way to tell that Bridging the Music is a scam is because they focus so much about how much they give to charity. Right? Get Off My Lawn Records is a for-profit business. But I try to do things transparently, honestly, and in a way where nobody's getting screwed. But we are for-profit. We're not going to talk about how much we give to charity. I give to charity what I can give to charity, and I highlight the charities that I think everybody should give to. Mm-hmm. But if part of your business model is we're going to give X amount to charity, then, or if you're looking at a business and they're bragging about how much they give to charity, they're probably ripping you off in that process.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
there it is.
so be aware.
Right down against the desk there.
There it is. Yeah. So here's one of the tickets. And look, this guy would have printed these off on his printer at home, taken a paper cutter, cut them up. $5? Are you kidding me? And
No,
then,
it sounds like a complete ripoff.
it's
Yeah,
a complete
it does.
ripoff. And then there's Bridging the Music, and I've talked to them a couple of times, and I got to a point where they would call. Be like, hey, you think you can get some people out to a show? Yeah, I think I can get some people out to a show, but you're not going to profit off of the people I bring to the show. I'm okay with you keeping the money from the people you bring to the show. But don't take the people that I bring, because that's a leech.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The companies can leech. So that's the first example of pay-to-play. The other example with live music and pay-to-play that I've come across recently is these places that charge for board feeds. So when you're playing in a bar, right, they'll have a board kind of like this one. They'll have all their microphones plugged in, and then there's a couple of outputs that would go to something like this. And you could bring your own, plug it in, hit record, get on stage, and hey, at the end of the night, you got a nice little recording of what you did. Some places charge $50 for just 2-track, for just the mix. This one place I played, they wanted $200 for the multi-track. And I'm going, studio time is $300 a day in this town, right? Like, what are you doing? So, and then I started asking around. I said, has anybody else encountered this? And in certain towns, in LA and Nashville, very common. These are towns that are very notorious for pay-to-play. But then at the same time, I talked to a guy who sold me this very cool snare drum, the red one. You'll see in future videos. He said, yeah, here's how that works. Basically, what happens is eventually they don't book the bands that aren't paying for the recording. So now you're paying $200. You're not gonna make $200 selling $10 at the door on a Sunday night. So now you're paying to get on stage again. If you are paying to get on stage, avoid it at all costs. There are better ways to do it. Get hooked up with charities. Get hooked up with your neighborhood. Go put on a neighborhood show for free. Don't go pay to go play at some terrible dive bar or some second-rate coffee shop. Right? Just go play. Find the audience by going where people are and playing. After you've acquired a certain size of audience or a certain proficiency, then you can actually have places pay you. And that's called a guarantee, and that's the kind of stuff we do. And I'm not going to be able to make a living doing that 7 nights a week. So that's why we have to do the label, and that's why we have to do all these other things. But at least I'm getting paid something, and even if they're paying me poorly, I'm not paying them. So avoid those.
Yes.
Then that brings to the other pay-to-play, which is, we used to see it a lot in the early days of iTunes, and and now that the tools have gotten very streamlined, it's a little different. But there are record labels where you have to provide the mastered recording. It has to be done before they will even touch it. And then they're gonna sell it for you and keep a cut.
Yeah, it's pressing and distribution deals.
Pressing and distribution, right? Well, guess what? The only reason you should ever enter into that is if they're going to spend money marketing you. Because if all they're going to do is pop it onto iTunes, you can do that yourself for $50.
Yeah, that pressing and distribution deals made more sense back before iTunes. Because then, it was actually manufacturing the discs, getting it out into the record stores.
Right.
It was worthwhile, especially, and it happened a lot more between, like, really small labels and then the majors.
Yeah.
That's where the pressing and distribution deals came in more because, then...
Because the small label would put up the money to make the recording, and then they would basically outsource the manufacturing to the larger label.
And the distribution, yeah.
Yeah. But there's also these, I've run into these online magazines where it's you got to pay $50 to be reviewed. That's a pay-to-play scheme.
Yeah.
I once tried it, didn't do anything for me, but one time a radio show said, "Yeah, we'll feature your music." Okay, great. $50. Oh. Well, let's try it. And you try it, and I listened to the radio show, and they played 10 seconds of the thing. And sure, they shouted us out, but not a sale, not a Facebook like, not a Twitter follower, nothing. So don't go paying people to do this stuff. Build an audience the hard way, and you'll build a better audience.
There's no shortcuts.
There are no shortcuts.
It's just like on Twitter. I've been at this Disc of Ignorance Twitter feed for a long time, and I'm up to around 370 followers.
Hey, way to go!
And that was a slog to build that. But I'm also not doing anything weird to get... I'm not following any of those services about getting new followers because I want my followers to come for the content.
Right.
And whenever you pay for these, for $100, we'll get you 10,000 followers. Well, maybe 5 of those guys are actually interested in what I'm offering. And I'll find those 5 guys for free.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not worried about social media numbers.
Good things in life take time and are never easy to do.
Right.
The other one, as a photographer, I've run into these before where it's like these book deals. Back before self-publishing became a little more automated and streamlined, where these companies would come and say, "Oh yeah, we'll make books for you, but you're gonna have to pay $150 first for setup fees or stuff." That's another example of a pay-to-play.
Yeah, photography has photography is really hard as a profession right now because the iPhone and Android.
Yep.
You can take photos with the iPhone 7 that are ridiculous, even if you have no like photography knowledge.
I
because
take lots of great
tools are
photos.
so good. And like for me, the photography thing is way more of a glorified hobby because I have zero interest in the ridiculous amount of work it requires to make a career out of it.
Yeah.
I'm able to make money off of it because I'm able to sell a very specific type of niche content that there's an audience for. But I'm fairly lucky that I found my way into that. And I don't do client-based work. It's like I have this particular thing I like to do, and there's people who happen to like it and are willing to pay for it. And if not for that arrangement, I wouldn't bother with it.
So wait, when you do your photography stuff, and I know you kind of keep a line drawn with this stuff. We can promote it or not. It's up to you. But with your photography stuff, so you say you don't do client-based. So how is that model working for you? What is the model then?
Well, the model is that there's an audience for a certain type of content, and
Right.
there's venues that let me post that type of content for sale to that audience, and
Okay.
then I just make direct sales, or sometimes subscription kind of stuff where I put out certain amounts of content per month, and that works really well as a nice little bit of supplemental income.
And do you
And
split
since
it with
it's the kind of stuff that now for me it's direct like so there's some websites that I'll sell to. Well, they'll take like a 15% cut. That's fine. And then but I have my own site where it's 100% profit from that. And so that's just how I do it. But the only reason it works is because this is the type of content that I just want to make for fun.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I'm able to then turn around and sell it is really nice. But it's sort of one of those stars align kind of things where I just happen to be into this type of thing that other people happen to be willing to pay for, and it works out beautifully. But like I would never do like wedding photography or anything like that because it's just an insane level of stress. And that even though the money is good,
Well, I got you in touch with the realtor.
yes,
Yeah, he's great, by the way. You should work with him. I think you would learn a lot about photography doing architectural photography that you hadn't considered before doing subject-based photography, like doing lives, like because you mostly photograph people.
right. Though I've done real estate photography before, and it's fun, but I despise the kind of legwork that is necessary to maintain that kind of work. I hate talking to 30 guys to find the one guy who needs something. Like I just can't stand it. Like that's the kind of process that if I have to go through that fishing process, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to find something else, some other
You're
way to
going to
spend
go
my
through
time.
the fishing process specifically for what you want to do.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
what we're doing. We're really just trying to find people that are interested in the kind of music we make,
Exactly.
right? And that's why I've been thinking about this P&D thing a lot, right? Because I do have this distribution network set up. I could just take on projects, push it out to iTunes, and then keep a small cut off the top of it. But at that point, I'm a leech.
Yeah. You know,
But
if-
at the same time, if something's really cool and it's already done, let me know. And if you're like, yeah, I'm okay with you leeching because you're going to help me market the thing, that's a little different. But at this, I don't want to build the foundation of Get Off My Lawn Records off of that. I want to build
Right.
it on, we're going to actually do the recordings in-house. We're going to do the whole production in-house. Literally.
Now,
So,
one other scheme that this conversation made
Yeah.
me think of is in the graphic design world.
okay.
There is this sort of infectious disease of contest art where a company will say, oh, we want a logo designed. Hey, graphic designers, design this logo for us. And they'll solicit, all these free entries, and they'll pick the one they want and pay that guy a pittance. So you have all these people that might have poured their heart and soul into this effort, and they're almost guaranteed to get nothing out of it because if you've got 500 entries or 5,000 entries, only one guy's going to win.
Yeah.
And because they solicited it for free, they feel like they can get away with paying the winner far less than industry rates. And I know there's a lot of artists who do this kind of stuff to try to get exposure, but I would tell any of them, don't do it. You're just wasting your time, and no one is ever going to care about that stuff if you're not the winner. And it's just a way for the companies to exploit artists.
and in a lot of those contests, the way the rules are written, the company basically owns all of the designs that don't get picked as well.
That's what I was about to say. And so they save those, have their in-house artists work on them, and then suddenly you see your art with a tweak. You get on their thing, and you're like, wait. I said you could use it for that contest. I didn't say.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I didn't read the TOS.
Well, I will say this. Because we're going to need a bunch of images for the label, right? Mm-hmm. What would warm my heart is if anybody wants to donate the time and do stuff, right?
Well, that's different, right?
Otherwise, I'm stuck doing it myself because I have no money. Mm-hmm. But I take good photos. I have an Instagram. You can follow the Jazz Destroyers on Instagram. I take all sorts of good-looking photos.
But I think it's completely legit to say, hey, guys, I've got no money, but I really love to get smart. Is there anybody who's excited by this and wants to contribute something?
And all I would ask is, whoever's doing that, I would bring them in as part of the project, which, from a contractual level, has a monetary cut involved. Mm-hmm. I think a singular photographer for a project, I think a band is okay with bringing him on as an extra band member, if you will. I'm structuring my contract based on even splits with everybody. So the tough part is, like, I've also had bad experiences with artists when I work with them directly. That's if I was to go through, let's say, 10 of these experiences that I've gone through trying to hire artists directly, eventually you're like, let's make a contest. It's hard for a company to find those, because so many artists aren't actively making contact with these companies. Like, hey, do you need any artistic content? When you do, let me know, and we'll work out a reasonable rate that will help keep your bottom line involved. And it could work out. But yeah, the contest one, because we're going to do a remix contest once we have the content I want to do to remix, and we're totally going to open it up. But I'm just going to split it with everybody when we put the compilation together and make it for sale. Whoever wins will be paid off of the sales of it. This whole, like, win $500 or whatever, it's silly.
Have you tried talking to your mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. But not every project is going to be the right fit for what she does as an artist. Not every project, you know what I mean? That's how this goes.
I've seen your mom work in multiple formats, and that's why
My mother works in all sorts of formats. My mother's an artist.
Nice.
My downstairs is basically a gallery of her work. Mm-hmm. With a couple of exceptions.
Yeah, the one over the kitchen table.
The one over the kitchen table is not
that
her.
one is not.
But, like, the one in the kitchen is hers.
The art all around is real good.
I like to think I have taste. I also really have we have some prints, but I'm not as into prints and lithographs as I am as, like, I would rather a local artist have painted something than a yet another print of, like, a Klimt or a print of a Klunberg. Obviously, I'm making a league reference, but you know what I mean. I'd rather have original art that was done than a poster of a famous piece of art in my house. So, but that part's hard because a lot of artists you put so much time into a painting and they want to be paid. I get it. But that's why we have to prioritize our money, buy the things we can, and really just not buy everything, but we all have limited resources. We have to prioritize things. Yep. All right, so that's the kind of pay-to-play stuff that I've encountered. You'll get record labels that want to charge you for production. Mm-hmm. What? A record label? If you're talking to a record label and they're talking about you giving them money, that is not a record label.
Most record labels, you don't necessarily give them money, but they will take it out of sales.
And major labels have operated under that.
Yeah.
We have recoupable costs because it costs me $2 to physically manufacture thing. Like, we've worked it out. It's all going to be in the contract on the website. I want everybody to know what the contract everybody signed is. I want the audience to know what the contract is. I want every band to know what every other band's contract is. Because it's all going to be the same contract. It's simple. It's a couple of pages. I'm just so sick of watching musicians get ripped off. It just bothers me. So share this one to your musician friends, your artist friends. I'm sure there's got to be writer pay-to-play schemes. Anybody who you're worried about getting suckered into one of these, any creative, they're all susceptible.
One of the writer ones, not me personally.
What's this?
Some of my family paid play. Oh yeah, you want to get your book done? Sure. Or you want to get it edited? You've just got a raw manuscript. We would love to publish your book.
But we need to pay for the editing.
We need you to pay for this first. We need you to pay for that first. And then next thing you know, you've put $500, $600, $700, $800 into this company, and then you get shipped a box of paperbacks, and they're like, now remember, you have to order at least you have to do at least 3 orders.
Yep. That's a really good example of these pay-to-plays. The way it is now, though, the great thing about the internet is it has destroyed the ability for these guys to go do this, at least on a large scale.
Yeah, like with
really
Amazon.
suckering people.
Like the print-on-demand stuff you can get from Amazon looks so professional and slick now that if you're an author, just go to Amazon and get it put on there if you can't get through a major publisher, because and then just do direct promotion. You'll be far more likely to get something.
Yeah.
Right, and it's better to have made like $40 than to have lost $500. And I do get the whole, you need to invest in yourself, you need to invest in the project. In fact, in our contract, we budget heavily for marketing. I always say make it for free, spend the money trying to sell it. Right? That's the way to do it. Because ultimately, like, and if you look at these like things like The Voice, if they want you to send a professional recording, that's also a pay-to-play scheme. Right? If they want you to send in a professional recording in order to get an audition slot on The Voice, well, who's paying for that professional recording?
Right.
If they can't hear that you're good from the phone recording, it's not worth it. So send this to somebody, show somebody. These are a lot of good things to keep an eye out for in the industry. There's just, anytime you get a group of people who are creative and undercompensated, we're all going to start looking for shortcuts. There's a whole industry on YouTube on how to get more views. There's literally a whole genre of video, basically, of how to get more YouTube views. And those videos are getting millions of views. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? I could probably do better telling people how to get more views on YouTube than actually doing what I'm doing here. All right, what's next?